This video that I'm about to make right now is going to be 100% objective. There will be no bias whatsoever in this video. Now, people who have been on the YTBC for a long time, they know that there's always factions on the YTBC. There's always certain groups versus other groups, whether it be a racial divide, whether it be about nationalism, whether it be about good guy versus bad guy, whether it be about the bigger draw versus the smaller draw. There's always these factions. We've had this Mayweather Pacquiao faction for about 7 or 8 years, and now that it's over, or at least I like to think that it's over, now we have a new battle going on right now, and that is Triple G fans versus the Andre Ward fans, the Triple G fans versus the Guillermo Rigondeaux fans, the Triple G fans versus Andre Ward fans. So it's almost as if Gennady Golovkin is the new Manny Pacquiao, where a lot of people are constantly defending him, constantly making their case for him against these other fighters in terms of their situations and what he's doing, what he should be doing, and whatever the case may be. But I'm going to give my opinion on the whole situation. And again, a lot of these people, they just get emotionally attached to their fighter. It's almost as if that fighter is a family member of theirs, and if that fighter loses, they feel as though they lose. So they're living vicariously through their favorite fighter. And again, I'm 46 years old. I'll be 47 in a couple months. I'm getting up there in age, and my hero passed away, and that's my mother. So I don't live vicariously through a fighter. I'm old enough and mature enough to stand on my own 2 feet. So I don't understand this whole hero worship syndrome going on right now. But enough with the blabber. Let's get to the point here. Sugar Ray Leonard, my favorite fighter, has always been my favorite fighter. So when people criticize him, or people say, "Hey, Marvin Hagler won that fight," or Sugar Ray Leonard ducked certain fighters, I don't get all upset about it. I just say, "Hey, if that's what you think, that's what you think," and I move on. And that's what I think people should do when they talk about Triple G or Andre Ward. Everyone has a right to their own opinion, so I don't know why it gets so heated when we debate about this. But let's look at the facts. Now, Abel Sanchez and other people in Triple G's camp did make a statement about 1 or 2 years back that they would fight anyone from 154 to 175. That statement was made. So, because that statement was made, the expectation that he would come down to 154 or that he would go up to 168 or 175, it really should not be criticized as much as it has been. Um, you know, Fights with Carl Froch have been mentioned. Fights with James DeGale have been mentioned. Fights with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. have been mentioned and proposed. And Tom Loeffler had said that those fights would be considerations in the past. But then when Andre Ward's name does get mentioned, they shoot it right down and they say he's not a big enough name. But I have to argue that Andre Ward is a bigger name than Gilberto Ramirez. And that's a fight that's being talked about right now. So obviously Andre Ward is not at 168 pounds anymore, but he is still at 175. And the statement was made that we will fight anyone from 154 to 175. But obviously that fight's not going to get made. Andre Ward moved on, and he has his sights set on Sergey Kovalev. Now, also this whole thing with Canelo, about Canelo demanding a catch weight of 155. Again, as people know, I am not a big fan of catch weights. I've never have been. But the statement was made. We will fight anyone from 154 to 175. And Tom Loeffler and Abel Sanchez had said that they would move down to 154 to make a Floyd Mayweather fight. And they went on to say that he's the only guy that we would go down to 154 for. But Erislandy Lara has called out Triple G. That fight was shot down. And Canelo Alvarez, getting back to him, had said that he would fight Triple G at 155. So the statement was made, and once again, it was debunked because you're not going to fight anyone from 154 to 175. You're not going to do that because there was two opponents in that 154 to 155 pound range that you said that, you're not going to fight them. And again, I don't think he should have to go down to 155 to fight Canelo, but if they do negotiate that fight and there has to be a catchweight involved, then maybe 156, 157, because whether you want to believe it or not, or accept it or not, I should say, now that Floyd Mayweather is retired, Canelo Alvarez is the biggest pay-per-view draw in boxing right now. He is boxing's new star, and he does have that leverage. And if anyone thinks that he should not use that leverage, then they're crazy, because if I had it or if you had it, I believe that I would use it, and I suspect that you would use it too. So to ask that he doesn't use that leverage is ridiculous. But from a fan standpoint, Canelo Alvarez is sort of making a mockery of the middleweight division. Whether I agree with it or not, I think it's up to the sanctioning body, the WBC, to say, hey, you have our 160-pound title, so you should not force anyone to fight below that weight. They should be allowed to come in at that weight or below. So I don't blame the fighters. I've always blamed the sanctioning bodies for allowing this thing to happen. But they will continue to allow it to happen because they're getting that big, fat sanctioning fee. It's the way of the world. Money rules the world. Cash rules everything around me. We know that. But in the same token, I just don't think that a lot of these guys at 168 will fight Triple G. So the other argument is, why can't he just stay here and clean out his division? Well, Triple G's getting up there in age, closing in on 35 years old. And if these guys don't decide to fight him, what is he going to do? Is he going to continue to fight Dominic Wades? As a fan, I'm not looking forward to that. I'm really not looking forward to that. And what did the greats do before him? You could say what you want about Floyd Mayweather, but he did move through weight classes, and he did go up in weight. Manny Pacquiao did the same thing. Sugar Ray Leonard did the same thing. Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, the list goes on and on. So when there is no challenges left for you at a specific weight class, history has shown us, and I'm going to throw another name in there, Oscar De La Hoya. History has shown us that fighters move up when they run out of challenges. And it seems as though Gennady Golovkin has run out of challenges. So why can't he do what the greats before him have done? It's just my opinion. But again, I'm going to also defend Gennady Golovkin a little bit, because I'm hearing statements being made about him, and people are just saying and diminishing his boxing ability, and they're saying that he's just a come-forward power puncher. But as I mentioned in my earlier video, when I was doing this breakdown for Beating the Odds with Habeeb, with him versus Dominic Wade, I think a lot of little subtle things that he does gets overlooked, and he's underrated as a boxer because he does a lot of the little subtleties in the sport that people just overlook. Now, as I mentioned, it's not just the timing, it's the ring instinct, it's the ability to be 2 or 3 steps ahead of his opponent and see what his opponent is going to do before his opponent actually does it. So he gets a feel, he gets a read on what his opponent is going to do. And as I mentioned, he makes adjustments, he shortens up shots on the inside, punches with his opponent, but he shortens up the shot just enough to get there before his opponent gets there, and he is rolling their shot while landing his. And he, varies up his offense, very versatile offensively. Not a big fan of him allowing people to hit him on purpose, but again, he's just that good, and he's just that confident in his ability, and he's able to roll shots, so he can take those shots. So I think a lot of his overall game is overlooked, and he's just basically minimized when people analyze him as just being, they reduce him to just being a come forward power punching slugger. And I think he's anything, I think he's much more than that. And I think he's far from that. That's just my opinion. But again, if you disagree, I'm not going to get mad about it. You know, he's not related to me, so there's no need for me to have to come to his aid and defend him. So I think that he is a great fighter, or at least has the potential to be a great fighter. There's really no Hall of Fame names on his resume, so maybe it's too early to say he's great. But if you watch him fight and you see what he's doing in there, you can, at least me, I can honestly say that he has the potential to be great. But the one problem is will he ever get that fight on his resume to suggest that he is great, or to solidify that he is great? He needs a couple names on there. He needs to get a great fighter on his resume. At least you could say Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, they have great names on their resumes. Andre Ward has names on his resumes. Kyle Froch, Mikhail Kessler. You know, these are guys that will someday be in the Hall of Fame, whether you want to agree with it or not. These guys have done a lot at 168, and they've been in the division, and they've been champions for a long time, and they've won the title multiple times. They've unified. So these guys are going to go in the Hall of Fame. And Andre Ward did win that Super 6 tournament when he was the underdog. So Andre Ward has won when he was the underdog. Triple G has never been the underdog. He probably never will be the underdog unless he moves up and fights Andre Ward at some point, which probably won't happen now because Andre Ward is at 175. So looking at this objectively, Triple G, when you give him the eye test, he looks like a great fighter. He has the potential to be a great fighter. But to be a great fighter, you need a great resume, and that's one thing he doesn't have. And if he continues to waste away at 160 and wait for these big fights that probably never will happen, then he's robbing himself and he's robbing the fans of giving us the opportunity to unequivocally call him great. So that's just my take on this whole situation. That's my opinion. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with it. And I'm going to be attacked for this. But I got to tell the truth. Got to tell it for like it is. I've watched the sport a long time. And I've seen great fighters do great things. And quite honestly, I have not seen Golovkin beat a great fighter yet. And until he does that, then he will not earn the title of being great. He looks great, but you have to show him proof. And he's doing it against opponents that are very good, some of them, but they're just not great. And until that happens, the jury is still out. And the Habeeb is out right now too. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.